Now, the purpose of the Bible is to testify of Jesus Christ. The Bible, from Genesis to Revelation, points to Christ.
The Bible is true in a very strange way. What you do as an educated person is sample that structure that constitutes the sum total of the texts of our civilization.
Because if those four things are true, that there's truth, that God exists, that miracles are possible, and the New Testament is reliable enough to let us know that the resurrection occurred, then Christianity is true. Because if Jesus rose from the dead, game over, Christianity is true.
So, what is the food you give to the soul? It is reading the Bible, the Word of God. And I don't care who you are, you cannot live a victorious life if you neglect Bible reading and Bible study.
But what we have at stake here is far more than that. You know, your life depends on this book. So read it.
Pulpit Commentary, Leviticus chapter 5 verse 1, the case of a witness on oath. If a man hear the voice of swearing, that is, if he was one of a number of persons adjured to speak according to the manner in which oaths were administered in Jewish courts of justice, see Matthew chapter 26 verse 63, 2 Chronicles chapter 18 verse 15, and he did not give evidence of what he had seen or heard, he had to bear his iniquity, that is, he was regarded as guilty. And as this was an offense which could be atoned for by a sacrifice, he was to offer as a sin offering a ewe lamb, or a female kid, or 2 turtle doves, or 2 pigeons, or the 10th part of an ephah of flour. This injunction is a direct condemnation of the approved teaching of Italian moral theologians of paramount authority throughout the Roman Church, who maintain that, in case a crime is not known to others, a witness in a court of justice nay, he is bound to say that the accused has not committed it. St. Alfonso de Liguori, Theology More, Book 4, page 154. Verses 2 and 3, 2 cases of a man ceremonially defiled. If he had touched a dead body, or any other substance conveying uncleanness, and it were hidden from him, that is, if he had done it unwittingly, or from forgetfulness or neglect, had failed to purify himself immediately, he must offer his sin offering, as above. Verse for the ease of a man who had neglected to fulfill a thoughtless oath. If he swear to do evil, or to do good, that is, to do anything whatever good or bad, see Numbers chapter 24 verse 13, and failed to fulfill his oath from carelessness or negligence, he too must bring his offering, as above. Verses 5 and 6, in the 4 cases last mentioned, there is first to be an acknowledgment of guilt. He shall confess that he has sinned in that thing, and then the sin offering is to be made. Confession of sin probably preceded or accompanied all sin offerings. The use of the word asham, translated trespass offering in verse 6, and the character of the 4 cases have led many commentators to regard verses through 13 as dealing with the trespass offering rather than the sin offering. But if this were so, the words trespass offering and sin offering would be used synonymously in this verse, which is very unlikely, when they are immediately afterwards carefully distinguished. It is best to render asham for his trespass, that is, in expiation of his guilt, as in the next verse, in place of a trespass offering. Verses 7 through 13, if he be not able to bring a lamb. Sin offerings being not voluntary sacrifices, but required of all that were guilty. And the 4 last named cases being of common occurrence amongst the poor and ignorant, 2 concessions are made to poverty, 2 birds, one to be offered with the ritual of the sin offering, the other with that of the burnt offering, or even some flour, either 3 pints and a half or 3 quarts and a half, according as we adopt the larger or smaller estimate of the amount of the ephah, are allowed when the offerer cannot provide a lamb or a kid. There is thus typically set forth the freedom with which acceptance through the great propitiation is offered to all without respect of persons. The non-bloody substitute being permitted only as an exception for the benefit of the very poor, and only in the 4 cases above specified, does not invalidate the general rule that without the shedding of blood there is no remission of sin. Chapter 5 verses 14 through 19 verses 14 and 15. If a soul commit a trespass, 2 previous conditions were required of the Israelite before he might offer his trespass offering. 1. He must make compensation for any harm or injury that he had done. 2. He must give to the injured party a fine equal to 1/5, i.e., 2/10 of the value of the thing of which he had deprived him, if the wrong was capable of being so estimated. In performing his sacrifice, he had 1. To bring a ram to the court of the tabernacle, 2. To present and to kill it, while the priest 1. Cast the blood on the inner sides of the altar, 2. Burnt the internal fat, and the tail, 3. Took the remainder to be eaten by himself and his brother priests and their sons in the court of the tabernacle. Leviticus chapter 7 verses 2 through 7. The special lesson of the trespass offering is the need of satisfaction as well as of oblation, and thus it supplies a representation of one feature in the great antitype, who was the full, perfect and sufficient sacrifice, oblation, and satisfaction for the sins of the whole world. Through ignorance, see note on Leviticus chapter 4 verse 2. Verses 15 and 16 refer to sins of omission, offenses in the holy things of the Lord, that is, withholding tithes and offerings. The non-payment of tithes and offerings was looked upon as robbing Jehovah. Malachi chapter 3 verse 8, and therefore it is that a trespass offering involving compensation, and not only a sin offering, is required to atone for the offense. The ram that is to be offered is to be of a value fixed by the priest with the estimation, i.e., according to the estimation of the priest. And the priest is to estimate it by shekels of silver, implying that its value must amount at least to shekels in the plural, meaning 2 shekels. See Ezekiel chapter 47 verse 13. Where portions means more than 1 portion, i.e. 2 portions, the shekel is considered to be equal to 2s. 7d. The shekel of the sanctuary means the shekel according to its exact weight and value, while still unworn by traffic and daily use. Beside offering the rain, he is to make amends for the harm, or rather sin, that he hath clown in the holy thing, and add the 5th part. The 5th part is probably appointed as being the same as 2/10 of the principal sum. Full satisfaction is the marked feature of the trespass offering. In Luke chapter 19 verse 8, Zacchaeus stood and said, Behold, Lord, if I have taken anything from any man by false accusation, I restore 4-fold. He went far beyond his legal obligation in respect to compensation. Compare 2 Samuel chapter 12 verse 6, he shall restore the lamb 4-fold. Verses 17 through 19. Sins of commission may be atoned for by the trespass offering as well as sins of omission.